Okay, can people hear me? Maybe not. Should be working. Can people hear me? Yes, they should be able to. Okay, so we just got this Seat Lombard plum butter, and it's the most amazing instrument ever made. So I'm assuming some background knowledge on like the lore of what Seat Lombard is and who Peter Blosser is, but the plum butter is a drum and drama machine in the layout of a psychogeographical map of the cities of Baltimore and Cleveland. So there are 3 sections of the plum butter. You have the rhythm section over here that represents the urban sprawl and industry. You have the voice section, because there's not really a better word for it, but it represents the suburbs, where the men of the church, the bats, and the dogs, I suppose, live. And out the furthest, oh, you can kind of hear it, is the deer horn, which represents the rural, the forest, and particularly the relationship between the hunter and the deer, proverbial hunter and deer. All this to say that this is a really weird instrument, and you probably know that. But I think the heart of the plum butter are these rolls over here. They're grouped into little communities of transistor, capacitor, constructs, I suppose, arranged in rings. And these are what are called like a Relabi synthesizer. It's just that these are going to be emitting pulses at normally like a regular interval, but when you get them into odd configurations, such as 3 rolls here, or the 3 rolls down here, you get injections of chaos, and some unexpected things happen because the transistor capacitor pairs are being turned off and on, nearly simultaneously. It gets funky, but if we take a look at some of these pulses, we can see how should I do this? I think I should probably play a voice using this, so that it's not just me talking. So let's listen to a gong. As you can hear, this orange output is just outputting a pulse, which is triggering our gong. What is a gong? We'll get into that in a second, but just on every clock pulse, if you want to call it that, we're triggering the gong. Now, crucially, these orange jacks here are strictly outputs. The brown jacks are sandrodes, or androgynous nodes, which means we can connect them to inputs or outputs, because they are both inputs and outputs. So let's take one from our other rolls 4, and you can see by increasing the rate of our rolls 4, we actually change the behavior of our other rolls 4. And here I've patched it and messed with it in a way that these pulses are alternating on the orange outputs. So our gongs are triggering at inverse times here. But there's a lot more to be seen here. So let's say we take a signal out from our gong that we're triggering and plug it into an androgynous node. We actually do get a slight wobble. So that's interesting. The nice thing about these gongs is they can actually take pulses, the negative pulses, out from our brown jacks as well. It takes them just as well as any positive pulse from our, well, it's not a pulse, it's a gate, from an orange jack. And the AV dogs, not so much. Our AV dogs need a longer signal, like a gate, in order to make sound. But that is neither here nor there. Another thing about the rolls is that they have these blue jacks, which control our rate. And these are CV inputs. The ones with holes drilled around them in a hexagonal shape are the inverted CV inputs. So if we actually take our little output, I'll explain what the smoke jack is in a second, but if we take this output and plug it in, we should be seeing see, we have a slight irregularity in the rhythm here because of what we're doing to control our rolls. Oh, hey. So this is more noticeable when we actually incorporate some of our odd numbered rolls. So let's actually take an output, well, a sandrode, another sandrode, patch it a little bit more, we can get some interesting things to occur. Or not. The rolls are very fickle. You know, once they're in a loop here, they can either give you a really advanced, ridiculous rhythm with tons of wobble to it, tons of the good squish and wobble, or they can give you just the most regular thing you've ever heard, which, you know, maybe you want that, but let's actually try to get a ridiculous pulse out of this thing. It might be because of the gong here. Let's see if I can fix that. Now we're listening to our ultrasound filter. We're pinging it with the trigger. It's giving us, you know, basically like a little click. No, this isn't doing much. Oh, there we go. Okay. That's a nice, interesting rhythm. Sort of a gallop, if we can tune it. Da-da, 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 da-da. Okay. Trying a dog. No. Let's try the snare. The snare might give us the nicest results here. No, that's very regular. So the thing about the rolls is that they very much interact with every other circuit around them. And that means just by plugging an output to another input on the instrument, you sort of loop the signal and make it stable. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. And they're very fickle. Let's try it one more time. This time we'll use a different roll, because I think the state of this one is all jacked at the moment. I don't want to do a power cycle. There we go. Yeah, see? Bum, 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 bum. So, our rolls are giving us some nice rhythms to work with here. So let's turn down everything else and just listen to the gong. The sound of the gong. So the gong is kind of, I mean, I might describe it as a resonator. It certainly acts like a filter. If you plug an external signal into it. But it has a delay knob here to desync it from the pulses you give it. Very fun, because it allows you to create new rhythms not just by using the rolls and the sequencer, which we'll get to probably last, but also by turning the delay knobs. This is our frequency knob. It's kind of at the shoulder of our gong. If you see, it's kind of a hunched over man shape. But we can change the frequency, and there is a sort of Q knob up here that changes the response to a pulse. And if we turn it all the way clockwise, we actually get continuous signal. But we're triggering it, so we don't necessarily want that right now. Let's keep it on kind of a wood blocky sound. It's very popular. There is an FM surge knob down here. It's just an attenuator, more or less. But instead of just doing that, it also serves as a fine-tune knob. So I'm guessing the inputs are probably summed with an offset. Peter Blosser weirdness. It's cool. It's cool. So then there are output. Well, there's some inputs first. We got to talk about the inputs. I got excited. So, ooh, that's a new rhythm. I like that one. Okay, so the green pulse input here. You know, if we're not triggering it, the gong isn't resonating. And the purple jack is our FM input. And sorry, long day. The blue are similar, but let's actually see what happens when we use it. Let's do an inverting input. Actually a little unclear on what the blue ones do because I'm tired. I can't remember if they control the resonance or if they control the delay knob. Does anyone know here? I don't think so. It's very unfortunate. I think it must control the delay, because it's not doing anything to our... Let me actually try something. No, it definitely controls the resonance. It definitely controls the resonance here. Okay. So this is our resonance control. I should use the yellow jacks with the blue jacks more. It's very fun. Our orange output is a... you know, it's the same as the offbeat thing. So the offbeat is the smoke colored one. The saw, it's a saw shape. I'm much less equipped for this than I realized. But the orange jack gives us a saw wave shape output related to the. Actually, let's give it a lesson through the ultrasound. So as you can hear, it's pretty slow. It's basically synced with our delay time here. So whenever the pulse input is synced with this saw, that's when the gong will trigger. It's a little esoteric, as Blosser's instruments tend to be, but that is how it works. And then this little guy down here, the smoke output, is the offbeat. Okay, and then the last output on the gong is the white jack, which is just the audio output. And I'll plug that into ultrasound. It's just what you're hearing. The filter does stuff to it, but, you know, it's the audio output. You can use it to modulate other things. So that's the gong, and we have two of them. They're in a stereo pair. One is hard panned right, one is hard panned left. Any questions about the gong? I don't think there are any questions about the gong. It's pretty simple. It's not that hard. Oh, yeah. Very organic. The middle section of the plum butter is all about pairs. And the deer horn is to extent as well. But, you know, there's kind of this beautiful symmetry to it. And the concept that Peter has gone into depth about on some of his talks is the idea that the plum butter is an instrument that can be rotated any direction, and the knobs will still make sense. You don't need to view it from one angle to understand it, which is why I'm not rotating the camera. You're seeing the back view of it, but it still works. Here's another gong in the left channel so you can hear it. It's identical. Oh, but it's so beautiful. I love the way the gong sounds. Everyone who uses a plum butter, the gong is their favorite. Except me. Because I actually like the AV dog a little bit better. AV dog's more complicated. So AV dog's green pulse input expects a longer signal than just a pulse, so make sure you're using an orange jack to trigger it. The idea of the AV dog is that it has a reference oscillator that you tune on the inside on this knob here. But as you can hear, it's sort of occupying the left and right stereo field right now. That is because we have the undulation knob. That's this knob here going. This actually controls the rate of undulation, which just means how fast the AV dog responds to the pulse. But as you can hear, the undulation also has a reverse to it. So it's an up undulation and a down undulation, and the up and the down are left and right. We have another surge knob here for frequency, and we have a resonance. The resonance knob actually also tunes the response a little bit, as Peter outlines, but it's a little more unpredictable than the gong, since the AV dog doesn't resonate on its own without a trigger. Technically it doesn't resonate at all, it's just responding to a pulse. Well, no, it does resonate. That's why it has a Q knob. See, I'm talking out of my ass. But it doesn't... It's not a single resonator like a gong is. The gong takes a single stab. The AV dog takes an undulation. Beautiful stuff here. A lot of people don't like the AV dog. They say it's too much. They say it's too whiny. But I really like it. I think it adds a lot to the instrument. It gives it some body when the gongs can very easily just be a wood block. You know? Why do you want the drum without the drama, is my question. The blue jacks here actually control what Peter calls the wave tank. And that's another word for the undulation, I guess. It's also a little unclear, but it controls the rate knob, more or less. If we turn undulation all the way up, we get a very frenetic dog here. The other side of the dog's undulation is the red jack, which we can listen to if you want. It's not that exciting, but it's useful for modulation. The purple is FM, of course, and the orange is actually the output of our original undulation here. Well, it's the control output. If we turn down the rate, or turn it up, we can see that it gets faster and the filter responds accordingly. And the white is just the audio out. I would say that the AV dogs are probably the hardest bit to understand on the plum butter, and that's what kind of makes them mystifying and interesting to me. Yeah, there we go. So the Q knob is giving the dogs a tail, a wagging little tail. It's more noticeable with these higher undulation speeds, I guess. And of course we have a second dog. The resonance just makes the signal continue longer after it stops getting that pulse, I would say. Which, you know, makes sense. The resonance is just feedback. What's really fun is you can actually play. Let me turn up the gong. You can actually play these like that. That's an advantage of these banana jacks. All it takes is a touch. That's all it takes. Now, ultrasound filters. These are pretty straightforward. It's just the actual functionality of them is ridiculous. Any questions about the AV dogs? I might not be able to answer them because I don't quite understand the AV dogs, but I like them a lot. Yeah, the tail wagging. That's the tail wagging. Alright, let's hear the ultrasound. So we're feeding the ultrasound our pulses right now. This knob down here is our frequency control. You can really feed anything into this green input. It'll give you an interesting response. It's interesting. For an example, well, you already heard all the other signals passing through it. You know. It has a surge knob up top that controls the frequency finely, and the purple input that you can attenuate with. Now, the yellow jacks are very interesting because it is a pure ultrasound square wave. It's actually an internal oscillator for the resampler inside of the circuit. If we listen to it, you can hear it gets pretty wild. Oh, yes, the dog can take a smoother signal. If we take the, at least I think it can. No. Nope. I just lied. It, I guess it only takes a pulse. Well, not a pulse, a gate. That's... yeah. That's unfortunate. But, you know, just the nature of the circuit. Can it take... ooh. It can take the square for a second, but it didn't like it very much. That's a rabid dog. So, sorry about that. Back to the ultrasounds. We can ping them for these sort of clicky, poppy sounds. And that's really useful for giving you some grit. A really nice thing we can do is actually take a negative pulse, and we get more of a ducking click here. Good night. And if we take a, get another yellow cable. If we take the regular pulse, we can get a really interesting response here. It's subtle. But as you can hear, the ultrasound circuit is pretty noisy. As such, some people dislike it. We call those people wrong. So, that's our voices. They're all mirrored on each channel. And the gongs and AV dogs have Dolby switches here. Oh, Mustard wants to know if you can do an in and out of the brown jacks at the same time with a stacking cable. Yes, you can. They are androgynous nodes. Let me show you with the ultrasound. Okay. It's coming out of our brown, but we're also going to input our pulse here, so we actually get a regular pulse, but it's being colored by that Nyquist resampler pulse. If you can believe it. And it's actually driving our rolls to be a little faster, which we can adjust with the knob. So yeah, the rolls are very susceptible to other signals. If you patch a lot of stacking cables with the rolls, the rhythms you make are going to change by the time your patch is finished. So just be aware of that. Okay. I suppose now it's time for the deer horn, which is the part that everyone likes because you get to move your hands. So the deer horn is a couple oscillators and a radio antenna. And it is, I'm not gonna say the thing that Peter always says, mostly because I can't remember her name. It's like, what is it, Clara Rockmore? I think that's her name. But because of the implementation of the antenna, you can actually get the deer horn to play 2 notes at once, not like a normal theremin. If I can get it in the right position. There. Just for a second you heard it. But as you can hear, the deer horn is a stereo instrument. Each voice is panned hard to the left or right. And the actual movement, yeah, Clara Rockmore. The actual movement of your hand, not just the proximity, but the velocity of it, is important with how the circuit responds. It's a very sophisticated little thing, but very primitive also. Now, this red output is a pulse output, not unlike the brown nodes, but it is an output, not a sandrode. So it's basically just generating a pulse whenever this LED is on, which is to say, in my configuration, when my hand is far away. Yes, actually, exactly. The stat cables are an unbuffered mult. Now, the bottom red output does the same with the other LED here. Now, the orange output is interesting. It's a delta output, but it's kind of a misnomer because it's not so much an output as it is a reading, because you can actually influence the reading, and I'll show you how. If it'll work. Okay, my hands are off the table. No, they might need a little help. Let's see. Are you not gonna do it? Okay, whatever. Just know that you can influence this orange input with more patching. It's just not working for me right now. Probably because I'm not patching it enough. You need to patch it more. Let's try it this way. No. Let's try triggering the ultrasounds. That'll probably help. See, sometimes you just forget everything when you're trying to do a instructional video. But yeah, these are FM inputs. The three bottom knobs tune the deer horn. This Dolby switch down here actually reverses the response so that closer is higher. And the middle position, of course, mutes the deer horn entirely. This up here is an adjustment knob for tuning the position. It's part of the calibration procedure, but you can play it as its own little instrument. The actual calibrating trim pot is in this little hole up here. You'll have to tune it most places you go because this little antenna is very susceptible to radio signals. So watch out. The deer horn is really useful to control other things. So let's actually use its pulse outs to control the gongs. Useful little guy. But I do want to show off the delta signal. The delta is actually your hand movement translated into a signal. So if we can hear it. Let's try the frequency. Oh yeah. That's a really good bongos. yeah, the deer horn is very important to the overall plum butter experience. Okay. Oh, and the white outputs are audio. Last section. This is our urban center. We already went over the roles, but there are two more bits that are part of a module called the man with the red steam. And this is actually just a shift register and a noise source, which, you know, sounds a little familiar to anyone who knows a thing or two about Eurorack. We can actually take this noise source, clock it, and loop it. I'm sorry, am I there? We actually get a randomly looping sequencer. And each step of our shift register here, I'm going to take out the random bit, outputs either a pulse on the red outputs or a gate on the orange outputs. Now there are two different ones because they're both useful for different reasons. The pulses are very useful for interacting with roles or giving momentary CV control to other things. So what we can actually do there we go. I had it passed wrong. Now it's a looping sequencer. We can take this pulse and this pulse Yep, it is a ping. But these pulses can ping stuff. We left our rolls 4 in a state, huh? It's swinging. Yeah, if we change the states of our transistor capacitor pairs here, they'll stay that way until they're rewritten. But also we have the orange guys, which can trigger our dogs. I'm just trying things. I'm like, what does this do? So, crucially, the negative pulses from this won't write anything to the purple input here. So the green is our pulse input, which drives the clock of our sequencer, and the purple input is our write, which can either be high or low, and a negative voltage won't register on it. So we have to use a gate. All these gates might actually be low. We have buttons down here to, oh, I see the problem. The right input is getting sucked up because it doesn't want to loop at the same time. That's what's happening. Yeah, there. See, we got it. It's bum, 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 bum. So you don't have to make a looping sequence. You can have it be derived from another gate pattern, which is fun. But the last part is actually our snare drum. This knob adjusts the decay. This smoke color knob is actually our quantum noise output, which is our noise source for the snare. I'll play it through the ultrasound so you can hear it. It's loud. Yeah, this is just the snare drum. I know. I mean, what else are you going to call it? It's a pretty utilitarian little snare drum. But, you know, what else do you expect from the industrial sector? I think it makes a lot of sense for the sound source over here to be clicks and cuts and a snare drum. Speaking of which, we can actually use the rolls as a sound source, which I do want to demonstrate. Technically, we're doing that whenever we use the ultrasound filters. They just give it a bit of tone. but you can hear the sharp edges here. These are clicks. This is the sound of your audio desk going from... What is happening here? Oh, it's just because it's not clocked. You can hear the sound of your audio interface going from 0 to a billion decibels. And you can explore this much further with the Rolzer instrument that goes with the plum butter. Oh yeah, okay. This is another cool thing you can do. Use your body. It gets very silly. Wah, wah. It's almost vocal. It's beautiful stuff. But these are circuits that you could almost touch. Technically, you can touch one of them. And the rolls are so broken out that you can play banana jacks like this. And you're basically just touching the circuit, because this leads all the brown nodes lead directly into the base of a transistor. Also, it's very frustrating that my cat has already got his hair all over this thing. Anyway, the blue jacks over here are actually the mixer. These are VCAs. They have the verso and inverso CV inputs, so you can control the volume internally. Plenty of fun things to do that with. The snare drum has an audio output, a pulse input, and similarly a control for the decay. It really is. It's so the plum butter is a tribe of circuits. I've heard Peter describe paper circuits as a tribe of circuits. And the interesting thing about the plum butter is that it wasn't conceived as what it ended up as. Basically, this was just a heap of paper circuits that Peter had on his desk and decided to make something out of. Which is very funny because it came together beautifully. It's very cohesive. All of the ideas, I think the key point here is that all of the ideas were compatible. Peter was in a very specific mode of thinking while creating all the separate components of this instrument. The deer horn, for instance, was only here because it was on that table. But it really does bring a lot to the table, so to speak. So I think now that we've gone over the plum butter a bit, and it's midnight here, we should do a midnight jam. So, should I keep my microphone on? Yes, some of the paper circuits, we actually transcribed a bunch of the paper circuits into more digestible schematics. Just as an exercise in reading schematics. Peter has shorthands in his designs that are really strange, I will say. Kind of inscrutable to someone not overly familiar. Should I keep my microphone on or no for the jam? I think I do want to explain the jam. Alright, so here I am triggering the ultrasound filters with the rolls 4, but I'm also using the rolls 3 to modulate the speed. There we go. That's the sound I wanted. That's not the sound I wanted. Neither is that. There we go. Okay. Let's turn down the input a little bit so we're not blowing our ears out here. I think you can still hear that fine. Alright, let's use this orange out. And trigger a dog. I should mention these Dolby switches on the dogs and the gongs actually shift between two different modes. I'm going to use the gonzo mode for the dog because it sounds like a badger. Badger, budger, 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 budger. Okay, we're getting a nice clicky sound. Let's get a more flowy sound. And let's sequence it. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the undulation out of my AV dogs and putting them into the snares in verso and inverso so that we can actually sync them up. It's a little unintuitive, but this is a really good technique to get musically related undulations. And let's use a small jack for this. Okay, let's use an orange jack up here, trigger a gong. Beautiful stuff. Okay. Alright, gotta start using the long purples. Long purples. Let's actually put that in the frequency. This is a wild one. Something about midnight just brings it out. Alright, let's use some pulses. Alright, let's get the deer horn in. I've actually used all of my wires. Well, I actually have some red ones. Let's use some red ones. I'm going to the VCA section. We actually want to take a look at the plum butter here. It's very much a forest of patch cables now. The plumpeter is not a super harsh instrument, no. It's yeah, chaotic without mayhem. Oh, maybe. Thank you, I appreciate that. No, I think we played this pretty well for someone who's only had it for 5 days? More like 4. More like 4 days. And this is probably the worst patch we've done on it, but I'm loving this. This is neat. Oh yeah, I love NLCs, like, just don't have any of their modules except this dispersion delay that we got from Forestine over here. It's a lovely delay, very lo-fi, it can get chaotic because it goes into the, what do you call it, breakdown mode. Very fun. It does get unruly very quickly. I imagine with more NLC modules, it would be really something to behold. Oh yeah? Squid Axon. We should try that one out. I think it's on VCV rack, so we can probably use it. The Rolls 5 section is kind of similar to an NLC module, because it kind of just tears the circuit open for you. And you know, even just crimping the cables here can do things to alter the behavior of the circuit. Let's Splash is very cool. I'd love to have one. Yeah, we just don't have room. Yeah. I like that sort of thing a lot. Like, Cold Mac is like the utilitarian version of that sort of thing. Like if you combine Cold Mac with a matrix mixer and like I don't know, Clank Chaos. There's not really much comparable to Let's Squash. Pretty good. Plum butter explained? Question mark? Thanks for everyone who stuck around and watched. Alright, I think that's the end. Have a good night.